Welcome back, this is Tucker. Let's talk weather. Erin continues tearing up waters off the Eastern Seaboard. We'll talk about the impacts and how long they last. But Erin's not alone. Two more areas of interest are emerging, and we'll talk about what you need to be ready for next. It's great to see you guys. Hopefully you've been enjoying the week, you're safe from these storms. But let's start with a look at Erin right here. I mean, that thing is crazy. Look at the eye coming out. You can see the eye wall very clearly around it. An impressive storm, to say the least. But it's also a dangerous storm, so we're going to talk impacts without giving you the hype, and I'm also going to get into the next two systems already identified by the NHC as areas of interest. So let's get to what you need to know right now. I'm taking you straight to what's going on in the Atlantic right now. We got three systems to watch. One is obviously Erin, and that's going to be the first part of our video, talking impacts from Erin. Then we got two more. We got this guy here, which is out in the middle of the Atlantic, and this one, which just came off the Cape Verde Islands off of Africa. And these next two systems are each already given moderate chances for development this week. That's nothing to scoff at. And we're going to talk about what those systems bring after we talk about Erin's impacts in this video. But straight to Erin, in that spirit, I want to tell you that this is likely to become a major hurricane once more, as the upper levels are really fueling its re-strengthening. I'll also mention, as these storms move farther north, their wind field grows. It gets wider. And by wind field, you can see everything marked here in that lighter orange color. Those are your tropical storm force winds. It's going to grow big enough as the storm strengthens and moves northwards that it's likely to clip Virginia beaches. Same with the Cape Hatteras areas in North Carolina. And that is going to bring significant impacts, mainly from waves. But this is still going to be a strong storm as it whips past portions of the Northeast, and waves are going to be a big deal too. So let's get into those impacts, then we'll talk about those next two systems that I want you to have your eye on as well. Starting with a look at simulated radar on Erin, and what you're going to see is the storm does not quite hit the coastline with rain, but what I will mention is that we do have some predecessor rain falling in the Northeast. Luckily, no flooding from this, but it is going to be rainy out there here, mainly Wednesday into early Thursday. And also, there could still be some storms or some rain that impacts Cape Hatteras, as this storm does come pretty close. I mean, Erin stays offshore, but you're not far off from the shoreline with the path it's taking. So that's going to make for some significant waves, and we're going to show you that in just a moment. But here's the storm as it misses the rest of the East Coast. What I'll still add, though, is that you can see these black lines packed pretty tightly, especially in southeast Mass. We call those isobars. That tells us there's going to be still some gusty wind. And again, something we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But we will start with the waves. And I do want to reiterate, guys, because I've had a surprising amount of questions about this. If you live inland, you're going to be okay. It's just the coastline, really. We're talking about some bigger impacts, and you can see why right here. I mean, you're looking at waves. I mean, look at this. This is a big deal. You're looking at waves hitting Cape Hatteras and parts of the North Carolina, even South Carolina coastlines that are going to be 20 feet high, and that will cause damage and significant erosion to the coastline. Those are very powerful waves. If you're inland, of course, you're not going to feel waves, and that's why you're going to be all right out there. But even you'll see two portions of the Maryland coastline, the New Jersey coastline, Long Island, those red colors indicating waves of 15 feet or more even. And that will be the case, I believe, even into parts of the southern New England area, the islands, perhaps even out towards, the Rhode Island coastline. These waves are big, and the outer Cape too, picking up 10-foot waves. These will cause erosion and some damage to the immediate coastline. Whether for waves or wind, which we're about to take a look at, the worst of it, if you're near the North Carolina coastline, is going to come primarily Wednesday and Thursday. If you're up towards New England, it's going to be more so around Friday. But here's the wind. These are sustained winds that are going to be around 35 to 40 miles per hour, and that's why we have the tropical storm warnings in effect for these coastlines. Could certainly be gusting into the 50s out there. Likely will not cause damage, but if it does, it would be minor. These winds continue to really, again, gust up as we get into New England. We talked about wind gusts as high as 45 miles per hour. Again, likely won't cause damage, but will cause some messiness. That's primarily Friday. And I also want to mention, just while we're looking at this, I'm going to start this back as the storm began to move out of the Bahamas area. You can see the wind field here. Kind of wide, but not super wide. But watch what happens as this moves north. This is just something good to know in general about hurricanes. I mean, look at the size difference here. You're basically looking at a storm that's almost double in size in terms of wind field. We see that with any hurricane or any tropical system that moves north. And it's something I want you to know now, because as we get farther into hurricane season, it is a trend that we will definitely see more of. Now to the next two systems, which as mentioned have already been identified in the Atlantic as areas of interest. We're looking at Erin right here. That's the core of Erin. Our next system is out here, and the next one out here as well. So each of these basically L's you're seeing on the map indicates the center of the low pressure system in a range of outcomes for where it's going to end up. So I'll talk you through it as we go forward here. But what I want to show you basically is that as we move this forward, you're looking at these systems beginning to move farther and farther west as they do. Here's Erin, pretty obviously, it's prominent and moving out to sea here. Our next guy, you can see, begins to move towards the, more or less the Bahamas, but you're going to see it make a move. And our guy off of Cape Verde also moving westward here, as systems do. But no real indication of what they're doing yet. But here's where it gets more interesting. You're looking at Sunday now. Our system that was headed towards the Bahamas, similar to Erin, is going to make a move north. And I'll explain why here in a moment. But what that's going to do is likely prevent any big impacts in the U.S., but Bermuda out here, you may have noticed when I was showing you our forecast map earlier from the National Hurricane Center, Bermuda is already in a tropical storm watch because this system is likely to develop and move up through Bermuda. I'll also say, look at our guy coming off Cape Verde. Kind of gets lost. A lot of the data that has been coming out today has not been very bullish on that system developing. It will still be an area to watch though. And as we head into next week, perhaps, at least now, it gets a bit quieter for a time. But the area of interest from these next two guys, definitely Bermuda, at least from the data we're seeing now. But let me show you another look at what is possible and what you should be looking forward to as we get later into this month. So here's the European model. Basically, you're going to see everything we just talked about off the bat. The reason that storm comes up by Bermuda, by the way, is because our high pressure system out here, it kind of, that was an ugly H, but it kind of moves back to the east and it opens the door for systems to escape out into the Atlantic earlier. If this system builds back, that will put the U.S. at higher risk for anything else that develops. And you will see as we move much deeper into the week, basically this is the end of the month here, this system still leaves some room for storms to escape before reaching the U.S. But what I will also say is that there is some hinting. You see how it kind of elongates here? That's telling us that there is still the doors open for this system to basically cover more of ground like this, which would put the U.S. at risk. And I'll say towards the end of the month, this signal to me suggests that anything that develops off the coast of Africa will at least have a decent shot of actually ending up farther south and having real impacts. It's not a slam dunk, but it is something that I'm making note of as we head towards the end of the month. And I will also say there is not a lot of suggesting that systems are really going to crank out at the end of the month. And I'm talking about like the last week of August, even the first week of September. But there's a lot of time to change there. And like I said, you can still see this signal for high pressure to take up a pretty good chunk of the middle of the ocean. That says that anything that may try to develop off of Africa would likely take a more southerly route and, depending on the upper level pattern, could come up the East Coast. I know that's very general. Anyone could say that, but I do believe, though the Atlantic looks quiet, that if something does develop, it will certainly be at least some risk to land. So something we'll be watching at the end of August, and like I said, the start of September too. All right, so we'll keep things short and sweet there. If you are on land, I will also say there's a lot more heat this week outside of the East Coast, especially in the southern U.S. So hopefully you're able to stay hydrated, deal with that. There's going to be a lot of rain activity too, especially in the southeast, so be prepared for that as well. And if you have any questions, whether it's about tropical weather or elsewhere, drop your questions right here. I'll answer them in the comments, and be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you right back here next time.